Got a big idea but not sure where to start? Shopify makes it easy. From stunning templates to AI tools that write your product descriptions and boost your marketing, Shopify helps you build, sell, and grow fast. It's trusted by millions, from startups to brands like Gymshark and Mattel. And with 24/7 support, you're never on your own. Turn your dream into with Shopify. Start your $1 a month trial today at shopify.com/dax. That's shopify.com/dax.
Hello and welcome to Thumbwind's End of the Road in Michigan podcast. We select one of our amazing stories about the Great Lakes region and the tip of Michigan's thumb each week. These are taken from thumbwind.com and presented here so that you can listen to them anytime, anywhere. Grave robbing was a gruesome yet common crime in the late 1800s as medical schools sought bodies for study. We found some amazing stories about this grisly crime in Michigan. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's tale from the end of the road. Today's story: The Grave Robbers of Michigan. The following are excerpts from various stories about grave robbers in Michigan. The first is taken from Mary Cobb Langley's 1960 book History of Caseville, Biographies and Legends. One narrative details a notorious crime that occurred in 1870. Caseville was a boom town at the time, transitioning from logging to sustaining a rising farming community. Grave robbery was a widespread crime in the late 1800s since medical institutions' desire for cadavers provided a rapid if nasty reward. Part 1: The Grave Robbers of Caseville. In addition to his medical business, Dr. S. J. ran a pharmacy shop. This modest, one-story structure had a cellar beneath it that was walled with logs and had 1.5 feet of fresh sawdust on the floor. This structure was located between the Gar Monument and Russell LeBlanc's souvenir shop. The location is a pharmacy with a female assistant. The girl needed to go into the cellar this morning. She screamed about a guy in the cellar. Her face was red with fear. Several men pushed her aside, wondering what she was yelling about in the world. She noticed a man hiding in the dust with his feet sticking out. The guys went down intending to tan the hide. According to the local constable, grave robbers have been active here. The streets of Caseville were filled with horror thoughts and terror. The cemetery was investigated, and 3 empty graves from recent burials were discovered. Stories began to surface. On his way home at night, the man came across the graveyard and heard voices. In addition, 3 empty holes from recent graves were discovered. Stories started to emerge. The man walking through the graveyard on his way home at night had strong voices and what sounded like the clink of a shovel on a stone, but he didn't do it out of fear. Mr. and Mrs. Myers live in the Orla Bora colony, just north of Bayport. The young wife awoke at 2 a.m., hearing a rig approaching the uneven ground. She peered into the bright moonlight and noticed a frantic horse team being driven by a guy whipping the horses' backs. A guy's body could be seen from his perch on the buck and rolling about on the buckboard, head dangling over the open tailboard. When she told her husband about the strange sight, he laughed and said, "Oh, come on back to bed, honey, that's just carrying a drunk home." This article established that the tomb robbing gang was active in Michigan's Upper Thumb near Bayport and Seeboing Village. These wretched monsters were apprehended thanks to the united efforts of the three. 3 men were working. They admitted to robbing one of the recent funerals. The remains were removed the night following the funeral, stripped, wrapped in canvas, and transported to Saginaw as quickly as horses could ride. The grisly cargo was loaded onto a train and sent to a medical school. These individuals were highly compensated by the institution. Caseville had no train service at the time. They lamented the cruel fate that had rendered one of the horses lame and unable to go that night. They received harsh punishment. Part 2: Modern-day grave robbers in Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids people have been charged with grave robbery twice in the last 40 years. Some wanted fortune, while others desired only a skull. Halloween is a time for scary stories, so here are a few about some courageous local teens who decided digging up graves would be a good idea. Founders of Oldsmobile robbed while dead. Let us begin in 1992 when 3 Michigan youths were questioned and subsequently accused for stealing the Olds family's tombs in Lansing. Scott Kindy and his brother Richard from Kentwood, as well as their buddy Patrick Wise, were charged with tomb robbery when the Olds mausoleum at Mount Hope Cemetery in Lansing was broken into. The Olds family were the founders and heirs to the Oldsmobile riches, and it was assumed that the men were looking for jewels and other valuables from the deceased bodies. The 3 also removed the rings from the body of a guy who had been deceased for barely 6 months. When the guys broke into the Olds family tomb, they discovered the family had been incinerated. They were furious and threw urns holding the ashes into the Grand River and a pond in Clinton Township. The end of the grisly crime spree. Scott's apartment also contained jewelry and other goods related to burials in Kentucky and Ohio. The second event happened in 1981 in Gaines Township, near Cutlerville. According to the book Miscellaneous, it was there when 6 high school kids decided it would be fun to dig up a cemetery. The 6 were later apprehended after they were discovered presenting a skull from the deceased to pals. Following their arrest, the 2 brothers who admitted to taking part of the bones from the family crypt of automobile pioneer R.E. Olds while doing it on a whim will be sent to jail. Judge Thomas Brown of the Ingham County Circuit Court sentenced Richard Kindy, 20, and Scott Kindy, 19, of Midland, to 2 to 10 years in prison. He expressed his concern about the absence of a clear purpose. The Kindys said they broke into the tomb for amusement but provided no other details. They are also facing related accusations in Ohio and Michigan. The brothers admitted on July 22 to removing the remains of 2 Olds family members from the crypt last year as part of a plea deal. Part 3: By day, medical students; by night, grave robbers. Just before Christmas in 1857, a terrifying find was made in the community of Cambridge Junction, some 40 miles southwest of the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. Men arriving to work on a church saw an unsightly scene, including blood streaks, hair tufts, and signs that important objects had been dragged across the ground. They found a large amount of fresh dirt near empty graves in a little cemetery in the back. According to the local sheriff, the medical school at the University of Michigan was the place to look for the missing remains. Yes, they were there, concealed by medical students. Despite being embarrassed, the students handed up the bodies and returned to their studies, humiliated yet unfazed. This type of thing happened all the time in the 1800s, not only in Michigan, but everywhere teachers taught medical students how to save lives. Part 4: Woman robs graves, but it does not require a shovel. After detaining a lady for allegedly removing a stunning range of goods placed at graves strewn over 2 cemeteries, police in Michigan were incensed in 2017. About 200 different items are allegedly missing from graveyards and utilized by Lisa Corcoran to embellish her home, which is deemed felony theft. During the spooky crime spree, which included 6 heists, Corcoran is accused of stealing relics from 24 different graves. When Corcoran was suspected of stealing flowers from an apartment complex, someone called the police, and the grave thief was caught. Investigators were appalled to discover 188 different items that they believe were taken from atop graves in her home. Part 5: Robbers take the son of a U.S. president from the grave and smuggle him to Michigan. U.S. Representative John Scott Harrison, the father of President Benjamin Harrison, is a relative of President William Henry Harrison. Despite being well known for his political career, he was a victim of body snatchers. According to a 1950 article in the Ohio History Journal, John Scott Harrison supposedly passed away and was buried in the family burial in North Bend, Ohio, in 1878. At the time, dissecting unclaimed remains was not yet legal in Ohio. Therefore, doctors required corpses for anatomy lessons. Body theft was a problem. Medical students may learn about anatomy from corpses thanks to voluntary body donation initiatives. Harrison's family buried him in a sizable vault and filled it with dirt and large rocks to preserve his remains. However, the resurrectionists persisted. On the day of Harrison's funeral, mourners saw that a nearby new tomb that formerly contained Augustus Devon's remains was empty. Devon teamed up with another friend to search the medical schools in Cincinnati for the body. One of Harrison's children was a friend of Devon's. Instead, they found John Scott Harrison hanging precariously from a rope in a pitch-black chute. Additionally stolen was Harrison's dead body. Naturally, the Ohio History Journal reports this terrifying episode attracted a lot of media attention. Later, the preserved body of Devon was found at the University of Michigan Medical College. This concludes this week's story. Thank you for taking the time to listen to Thumbwind's End of the Road podcast. If you like this kind of tale, you are invited to subscribe to our podcast. Just search for The End of the Road in Michigan from wherever you're listening from. Please watch for and download next week's podcast and take a moment to give us a review. Have a great day.